Joey McBride was the kind of man everyone in Blue Ridge turned to when something broke. As the only mechanic in the small mountain town, Joey had a way of fixing not just cars but people's spirits. His small garage on Main Street was more than a place of work, it was a lifeline for a town that ran on goodwill as much as gasoline. On an ordinary Tuesday morning, Joey was under the hood of an old truck when the unmistakable hiss of a deflating tire reached his ears. He straightened up, wiping his hands on a grease-streaked rag, and saw a sleek black sedan pulling into his lot. The car stood out against the backdrop of battered pickups and well-loved station wagons that usually graced his garage. Its glossy paint gleamed in the morning sunlight, but the front right tire sagged pitifully. The driver, a woman in her mid-30s, stepped out with a look of exasperation. She had sharp, professional features softened slightly by her auburn hair, which she tucked behind her ear as she surveyed the damage. "Morning, Joey," she said with an easy smile. "Looks like you've got yourself a flat." The woman nodded, clearly frustrated. "I was hoping to make it another 20 miles to the next town, but I guess that's not happening." "Not to worry," Joey replied, already grabbing his tools. "Let me get you fixed up. Won't take long." She hesitated. "I'm kind of in a hurry." "Are you sure it won't take too much time?" Joey grinned. "I've been fixing flats since I was old enough to hold a wrench." "You're in good hands." Reluctantly, she nodded, stepping aside to let him work. Joey crouched by the tire, his practiced hands working swiftly to loosen the lug nuts as he patched the puncture. He made casual conversation to lighten the mood. "You just passing through?" he asked. "Yes," she replied, glancing at her phone. "I have a meeting in the next town, and I'm already running late." "This isn't exactly helping." Joey chuckled. "Well, if you have to be late, at least it's for something fixable. Some problems aren't that simple." The woman's lips quirked in a small smile despite her stress. "I suppose that's true." In just under 15 minutes, Joey had the tire patched, inflated, and ready to go. He gave it a thorough once-over to make sure it would hold. "There you go," he said, standing and dusting off his hands. "Good as new. That'll get you where you're going." The woman looked genuinely relieved. "Thank you so much. How much do I owe you?" Joey waved her off. "Don't worry about it. Happy to help." She blinked, surprised. "Are you sure?" "I don't mind paying." "I'm sure," Joey said with a smile. "Just pay it forward next time you get the chance." For a moment, the woman seemed taken aback by his generosity. Then she smiled, a genuine warmth lighting her face. "I will. Thank you again." Joey tipped his cap as she climbed back into her car. He watched as the sleek sedan rolled out of the lot and disappeared down the winding road, the patched tire holding steady. Then he turned back to the truck he'd been working on, the encounter already fading into the flow of his day. To Joey, helping people was just part of who he was. He never expected anything in return and didn't think twice about the woman's gratitude. But as he got back to work, he couldn't shake the faint feeling that this simple act of kindness might carry farther than he realized. Joey McBride's garage was buzzing with the usual hum of activity that afternoon. He worked on an ancient station wagon that belonged to Old Man Granger, a retired schoolteacher with a knack for stories about the good old days. Joey listened patiently as Granger recounted tales of fishing trips and local history while Joey tuned the engine. "Joey," Granger said with a chuckle, "you've got grease on your nose again. You ever take a break?" Joey wiped at his face with the back of his hand, missing the spot entirely. "Not when there's work to be done." "Mr. Granger, always the hard-working type," Granger replied with a grin. "You're one of the few who keep this town running." Joey shrugged. "Just doing my part." As he finished the repair and sent Granger on his way, Joey noticed a young man lingering outside the garage. The teenager looked nervous, shifting his weight from foot to foot while studying a weathered bicycle in his hands. His clothes were patched and worn, and his downcast eyes spoke of hesitation. Joey called out to him. "Need some help?" The boy hesitated before stepping forward. The chain keeps slipping. I've tried fixing it, but it just won't stay on. Joey smiled and motioned him over. Bring it here. Let's take a look. As Joey examined the bike, he noticed how well loved it was despite its age. Looks like you've taken good care of this, he said. The boy nodded. It's all I've got to get to school and my part-time job. I can't afford for it to break. Well, let's make sure it doesn't, Joey said, pulling out his tools. As he worked, he struck up a conversation, learning the boy's name was Daniel and that he lived with his grandmother. Times were tough, and Daniel was doing all he could to help out at home. Joey replaced the faulty chain and adjusted the gears, ensuring the bike was road-ready. When Daniel offered him a crumpled $5 bill, Joey shook his head. Keep it, Joey said. You'll need it more than I will. Just ride safe and keep doing what you're doing. You're a good kid. Daniel's eyes lit up with gratitude. Thank you, Mr. McBride. I don't know what I would have done without your help. As Daniel rode off, Joey felt a familiar sense of fulfillment. Helping people like Daniel reminded him why he loved his work, even when it didn't pay much. But as the day wore on, Joey's financial struggles weighed heavily on his mind. The rent for the garage was due soon, and his savings were running low. He brushed the thought aside and focused on finishing the tasks at hand. The next morning, Joey was opening the garage when a sleek delivery van pulled into the lot. The driver hopped out and handed Joey a large parcel. What's this? Joey asked, puzzled. Delivery for McBride Auto, the driver replied, tipping his cap before driving off. Joey carried the box inside and opened it, revealing a set of brand new tools and a note. The handwritten message read, a small token of appreciation for a man who makes the world a better place. Keep doing what you do best. There was no signature, only a business card tucked inside. It bore the logo of an organization Joey had never heard of, but the name struck a chord, Crawford Solutions. Joey couldn't shake the memory of the woman with the flat tire, but he quickly dismissed the thought. The tools were a godsend, arriving just when his old ones were nearing the end of their life. As Joey admired the gleaming new wrenches and sockets, customers began to arrive. First, it was Mrs. Green, whose minivan was rattling again. Then a farmer whose tractor needed emergency repairs. The tools made Joey's work easier and faster, and by lunchtime, he had helped 3 customers and earned enough to buy a modest meal at the diner. Later that week, Joey was working late when the garage door rattled open. He looked up to see Daniel standing there, his face glowing with excitement. Mr. McBride, I got a job at the new coffee shop in town. Daniel exclaimed. The bike works perfectly. I can get there every day now. That's great news, Daniel, Joey said, genuinely pleased. Daniel held out a small paper bag. I got you this. It's not much, but I wanted to say thank you. Inside was a warm muffin wrapped in a napkin. Joey chuckled, his heart warmed by the gesture. You didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it. As Daniel left, Joey sat down, savoring the simple gift. It wasn't much in monetary value, but to Joey, it was priceless. Moments like these reminded him that kindness had a way of coming back, even in the smallest gestures. By the end of the week, Joey was exhausted but content. The garage was busier than ever, and word had spread about his new tools. People from neighboring towns started visiting, grateful for his fair prices and honest work. Despite the uptick in business, Joey couldn't shake the feeling that something larger was at play. The tools, the increasing flow of customers, even Daniel's success, it all seemed connected. What Joey didn't realize was that his life was about to change in ways he couldn't imagine. The stranger he had helped was not finished repaying his kindness. The ripples of that single good deed were spreading, touching lives far beyond Blue Ridge. Joey's garage had never been busier. Each day brought a new stream of customers, some locals, others from nearby towns. Many mentioned hearing about his shop through word of mouth, though Joey couldn't quite figure out how his reputation had spread so far, so fast. The new tools made the work easier, but the pace was relentless. Even so, Joey thrived on the satisfaction of solving problems and helping people. One crisp Friday morning, a silver SUV pulled into the lot. The driver, a middle-aged man in a tailored jacket, stepped out and approached Joey with a friendly smile. "Good morning," the man said, extending his hand. "I'm Robert Hensley. I work with Crawford Solutions." The name rang a bell, but Joey couldn't immediately place it. He wiped his hand on his grease rag and shook Robert's hand. "Nice to meet you. What can I do for you?" Robert glanced around the bustling garage. "It looks like business is booming." "That's good to see. I'm not here for a car issue, though. I wanted to discuss an opportunity." Joey raised an eyebrow. "An opportunity?" Robert nodded, his tone earnest. Crawford Solutions is a philanthropic organization focused on uplifting communities. We've been keeping an eye on your work here, and we're impressed by the impact you've had, not just in Blue Ridge, but beyond. Joey scratched his head, clearly confused. "I'm just a mechanic, Mr. Hensley. I fix cars and help folks when I can. That's about it." "That's exactly why we're interested," Robert replied. "Your generosity has set off a chain reaction. People talk about you, Mr. McBride. They share stories of your kindness. That kind of goodwill spreads, and it aligns perfectly with what we do." Joey frowned, trying to wrap his head around the conversation. "So, what does that mean? Why are you here?" Robert handed Joey a sleek folder. "We'd like to feature your garage in our next community initiative. It would bring more attention to Blue Ridge and highlight the importance of businesses like yours. If you're willing, Crawford Solutions will provide funding to expand your garage and support your efforts to help others." Joey stared at the folder in disbelief. "Expand my garage with what money?" "With our money," Robert said simply. "Consider it an investment in you and your community." Joey hesitated. The idea of expanding his garage seemed impossible, almost too good to be true. "Why me?" he asked finally. Robert smiled knowingly. "Because kindness is contagious. You fixed a tire for a stranger without asking for anything in return. That stranger was Lla Crawford, the founder of Crawford Solutions. She never forgot your generosity, and neither have we." Joey's jaw dropped. "You're telling me that the woman with the flat tire owns all of this?" "She does," Robert confirmed. "And she believes in paying it forward." Overwhelmed by the offer, Joey asked for a few days to think it over. That evening, he sat in his small apartment staring at the folder on his table. The idea of expanding the garage was daunting, but the thought of turning it down felt even harder. He thought about Daniel, the customers who had come from miles away, and the new tools that had made his work so much smoother. All of it pointed to one thing: the impact of small acts of kindness. The next morning, Joey returned to the garage, determined to keep things moving. As he worked on an old van, Daniel stopped by, his bike parked just outside. "Mr. McBride," Daniel said, "I heard you've been really busy. Do you need any help? I could work. I'm not great with cars, but I can learn." Joey chuckled. "I appreciate the offer, kid. Let me think about it." Daniel beamed. "Thanks, Mr. McBride. I'll be ready whenever you need me." As Daniel left, Joey couldn't help but smile. He thought about how the boy had blossomed in just a few weeks and how others might benefit if the garage could help even more people. On Monday, Joey called Robert to accept the partnership. The expansion plan moved quickly. Within weeks, Crawford Solutions began funding the construction of a larger workspace, complete with additional bays, new tools, and even a small waiting area for customers. Joey insisted on keeping the heart of the garage intact, a place where people felt welcome and supported, regardless of their ability to pay. The changes didn't just improve the garage, they revitalized Blue Ridge. The influx of visitors brought business to the diner, the hardware store, and the local motel. The town buzzed with new energy, and Joey found himself at the center of it all. But despite the growing attention, he remained the same humble mechanic, always ready with a smile and a helping hand. Late one evening, as Joey locked up the expanded garage, a sleek black sedan pulled into the lot. The driver stepped out, and Joey immediately recognized her. "LLA," he said, smiling. "Didn't expect to see you again." "I wanted to thank you in person," she said, her voice warm. "What you did for me that day meant more than you know." Joey shrugged modestly. "It was just a tire." "It was more than that," LLA replied. "You reminded me that kindness can change lives." "I'm glad we could help you give that gift to others," Joey nodded, his heart full. "I guess I owe you a thank you too," Joey said. "This garage has always been my dream, but now it feels like it's something bigger." LLA smiled. "It's exactly what it's meant to be." As she drove away, Joey stood in the quiet lot, reflecting on how far a single act of kindness could reach. He turned off the lights and headed home, ready to face whatever came next, knowing he was part of something truly special. The newly expanded garage had transformed Joey's life in ways he hadn't expected. While the physical improvements made his work easier, the real change was the sense of purpose he felt every time he stepped inside. The garage wasn't just his livelihood anymore, it had become a hub of hope and connection for the community. Customers poured in from neighboring towns, many of them sharing how they'd heard about Joey's story through social media or word of mouth. Crawford Solutions had featured his garage on their website, showcasing how small acts of kindness could ripple outward. Joey still charged fair prices, but he found himself offering help in ways that went beyond fixing cars. He organized free workshops for young drivers, teaching them basic maintenance skills, and he often gave discounts to those who were struggling financially. One Saturday morning, Joey was showing a group of teenagers how to change a tire when Daniel showed up, wearing a bright yellow work shirt with the garage's logo on it. Joey had officially hired Daniel part-time, and the boy had proven to be a quick learner. "Got those oil filters sorted?" Joey asked. "Yep," Daniel replied, grinning. "And I helped Mrs. Green with her windshield washer fluid." Joey clapped him on the shoulder. "You're a natural, kid. Keep it up." The teenagers looked on, impressed by Daniel's confidence. Seeing how far the boy had come since their first meeting filled Joey with pride. He hoped the workshops and Daniel's example would inspire others to believe in themselves and their ability to make a difference. As the months passed, Joey began to see the broader impact of his work. The town of Blue Ridge was thriving, thanks in part to the influx of visitors brought by the garage's growing reputation. The diner had expanded its hours, the motel had undergone renovations, and even the local farmers market was busier than ever. Joey's success was uplifting everyone around him, and that knowledge kept him motivated during long, exhausting days. But success didn't mean life was without its challenges. Running a larger garage came with higher costs and more responsibilities, and Joey often found himself working late into the night to keep up. He refused to let the stress overwhelm him, though, and every time he felt stretched thin, he reminded himself why he'd agreed to the partnership with Crawford Solutions in the first place. One evening, Joey was locking up when he noticed a young woman sitting on the curb outside the garage. She looked tired and a little lost, her suitcase resting beside her. "Everything all right?" Joey asked, walking over. She looked up, startled but grateful for his concern. "I'm fine, just trying to figure out my next move." Joey sat down beside her. "Well, you're welcome to come inside while you figure it out. Got a coffee pot that's always on." The woman hesitated before nodding. Inside, she sipped her coffee and explained that her name was Rachel and she'd been traveling to start a new job when her car broke down. She didn't have the money to fix it and wasn't sure what to do next. Joey offered to take a look at her car the next morning. When he found the issue of the faulty alternator, he replaced it at cost, asking only that Rachel repay him whenever she could. Moved by his generosity, she promised to send him the money as soon as she got her first paycheck. Before she left, Rachel handed Joey a folded piece of paper. "You've done more for me than anyone else would," she said. "This is all I can give you right now." Joey unfolded the note to find a heartfelt letter of gratitude. The words struck a chord in him, reminding him of why he had dedicated his life to helping others. He pinned the note to a bulletin board in the garage, which was quickly filling up with similar letters and thank you cards from customers. Weeks later, Joey received an unexpected call from LLA Crawford. She was in the area and wanted to stop by the garage. When she arrived, Joey showed her the improvements, from the new bay to the bulletin board filled with tokens of appreciation from customers. "This place has come a long way," LLA said, clearly impressed. "It's not just me," Joey replied. "The people here make it what it is. I just try to do my part." LLA smiled. "You've done more than that, Joey. You've created something lasting. Crawford Solutions is proud to be a small part of it." Joey chuckled. "Small part? I think you've been more generous than I deserve." LLA shook her head. "Kindness like yours can't be measured, Joey. It's why we believed in you." As they talked, a group of children passed by the garage, laughing as they waved at Joey. It was a simple moment, but it encapsulated everything Joey had worked for. The garage was more than a business now, it was a cornerstone of the community, a place where everyone felt welcome and valued. That night, as Joey closed up, he stood in the middle of the garage, taking it all in. The tools, the cars, the bulletin board filled with gratitude, it all represented something far greater than he had ever imagined when he first opened his doors. He realized that the real success wasn't in the money or the reputation, it was in the connections he had made and the lives he had touched. The simple act of fixing a stranger's tire had grown into something extraordinary. And while Joey didn't know what the future held, he was ready to face it with the same kindness and determination that had brought him this far. By the end of the year, Joey McBride's garage had become a beacon of hope for the entire region. People traveled from towns far and wide, not just to get their cars fixed, but to experience the warmth and integrity that Joey embodied. His reputation had grown beyond anything he could have imagined, but he remained the same humble mechanic, always more interested in helping others than seeking personal gain. One chilly December morning, as Joey worked on a farm truck, he heard the familiar sound of Daniel's bike rolling up the driveway. Now a regular employee, Daniel had become an invaluable part of the team, handling smaller repairs and greeting customers with the same friendly smile Joey was known for. "Morning, Mr. McBride," Daniel said, pulling off his gloves. "Got the shipment of parts you were waiting for." "Thanks, kid," Joey said, inspecting the delivery. "You've been keeping this place running as much as I have." Daniel grinned. "I learned from the best." The boy's confidence had blossomed over the months, and Joey couldn't help but feel proud. He had seen firsthand how kindness could change a life, and Daniel was living proof of that. That afternoon, Joey was surprised by another visitor, Rachel, the young woman whose alternator he had fixed weeks earlier. She walked into the garage holding an envelope in her hands. "Hi, Mr. McBride," she said, her smile shy but genuine. "I came to pay you back." Joey waved his hand. "I told you, there's no rush." "I know," Rachel said, placing the envelope on the counter. "But I wanted to. Your kindness got me through one of the hardest days of my life, and I'll never forget it." Joey opened the envelope to find not just the payment for the alternator, but an additional $50, with a note for the next person who needs a little help. Joey smiled, his heart swelling. "Thank you, Rachel. I'll make sure it goes to good use." As she left, Joey pinned her note to the now crowded bulletin board, which had become a testament to the countless lives he had touched. Each message reminded him that small acts of kindness could ripple outward in ways he could never predict. The garage's success hadn't just transformed Joey's life, it had revitalized Blue Ridge as a whole. The town had become a destination, drawing visitors who wanted to experience its charm and the community Joey had helped build. Local businesses flourished, and the townspeople took pride in their growing reputation as a place where kindness thrived. One evening, Joey received an invitation to an event in the city, a charity gala hosted by Crawford Solutions. The idea of attending a formal event was daunting for the small-town mechanic, but LLA insisted. "We want to honor you, Joey," she said over the phone. "You've shown what's possible when we lead with compassion." Reluctantly, Joey agreed, borrowing a suit from the local tailor and catching a ride with a neighbor heading to the city. When he arrived, the grandeur of the event took his breath away. The ballroom was filled with influential people, all there to celebrate the power of giving back. Joey felt out of place at first, but when LLA introduced him as the guest of honor, the room erupted in applause. In a short speech, LLA recounted how a simple act of kindness had inspired her and how Joey's garage had become a symbol of hope. When it was Joey's turn to speak, he stood nervously at the podium, glancing at the crowd. "I'm just a mechanic," he began, his voice steady but humble. "I fix things because that's what I know how to do. But along the way, I've learned that sometimes it's not about the work itself. It's about the people. Every person who comes through my garage has a story, and I feel lucky to be part of it." He paused, taking a deep breath. Kindness is a funny thing. It doesn't cost much, but it's worth everything. And I've seen how it can grow from one person to the next. So, if I've learned anything, it's this: never underestimate the power of helping someone, no matter how small it seems. The room erupted into a standing ovation, and Joey felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. He realized that his journey had been about more than fixing cars or expanding the garage. It was about building something lasting, something that could inspire others to believe in the power of kindness. When Joey returned to Blue Ridge, he found the town just as he'd left it, simple, warm, and full of life. The gala had been a humbling experience, but Joey was happiest in his garage, surrounded by the people who had always believed in him. He spent the next few days catching up on work, greeting familiar faces, and welcoming new ones. One afternoon, as he tightened a bolt on a tractor, Daniel approached him with an idea. "Mr. McBride, what if we started a scholarship fund for kids like me? You know, kids who want to learn a trade but don't have the money." Joey looked up, surprised. "That's a great idea, Daniel." With donations from customers and funds from Crawford Solutions, Joey and Daniel launched the scholarship program, offering young people the chance to pursue careers in mechanics, carpentry, and other trades. It became yet another way for Joey to give back, ensuring that his legacy would continue to grow. Years later, Joey's garage was still thriving, and so was the town of Blue Ridge. The ripple effect of his kindness had spread farther than he ever imagined, touching lives in ways he couldn't fully comprehend. People often asked him how it all started, and Joey would smile and say, "Just a flat tire." But Joey knew the truth. It wasn't just the tire. It was the decision to help without expecting anything in return. That one act had set everything in motion, proving that even the smallest gestures could lead to something extraordinary. As he stood in the garage one quiet evening, watching the sun set over the mountains, Joey felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The road ahead was still uncertain, but one thing was clear: he would keep moving forward, one kind act at a time.